Participating in a game jam is not in my to-do list in summer, and here I am joining in my first one. It's not just any game jam. Welcome to
GMTK Game Jam 2025.
For those who don't know, GMTK Game Jam is one of the biggest game development competitions where developers make their games for a certain amount of time that fits the theme, which takes place annually. As soon as I saw the registration begin, I immediately pressed Join Jam without thinking. This year's Game Jam is open for submissions for 4 days, which means the game has to be finished during that time. I was very excited to see what the theme was. I'm quite excited and nervous at the same time. I want to know the theme right away so that I can get started with the game. The chat is popping off. The premiere is going to premiere in 60 seconds. Oh my gosh, I'm excited. I'm anxiously waiting. This is my first time joining the Game Jam, so this is hype. This is hype.
This year's theme is just one word.
One word.
Loop.
Loop.
As always, how your game fits the
Yeah.
theme
Interesting.
when you
This one is
won't be
interesting.
disqualified.
Okay. I kind of have an idea in my head. I then open up my tablet to think of an idea that doesn't just fit the theme. It also has something that increases difficulties for each level. At first, I thought about making a platformer with multiple levels, switching by starting at the starting point and ending at the exact starting point with additional features, because I already got my curve for the platformer. However, as soon as I started making a prototype for the game, I realized that the platformer code was not perfect yet, and I just did not see how the mechanics were good enough. Some of the features I planned were kind of too much for me to handle. Therefore, I decided to do one thing that was intended to be the final task: making sprites. Please, don't be like me, don't focus on the art first. By the way, the time that the jam started was at 12 midnight, and I wanted to sleep as soon as I finished drawing my sprites. Good to know that I got a really good idea for the game after doing it, thank goodness. Also, I don't know why, but the progress of me drawing the sprites is not shown here. So here we are with the first day of the jam. I forgot to film the project I made in the first half of the day, so here is a summary of stuff that I made during that time. I completely scrapped the idea of making a platformer game, and I just turned it into whatever just shapes and beats inspiration. There is an enemy, and your objective is to avoid the bullets and approach the tick buttons as many times as possible. Doing this over and over again fits the theme of the jam: loop. However, there is a twist to it. Once you approach the tick buttons, a new enemy appears somewhere in the map. Chances that you might also spawn the brick walls that block you in the way. Don't worry, they will never spawn in the position of the tick buttons. The enemies rotate themselves and always aim towards the player. They don't shoot the bullets randomly except for one single enemy, which I will show you guys later on. It was quite hard to control the enemy's rotation in order to aim, but it finally worked pretty well. Then I changed the colors of the enemies to distinguish between the types of enemies. Sometimes one small change can make a big difference to your project. I also changed the shape of the bullets that are shot by triangle enemies. As I said before, there is an enemy that does not aim the player at all. That enemy is circle. It shoots circle bullets in a random direction. This enemy does not have consciousness. I need to note that each enemy has different properties of shooting bullets and their moving speed. At this point, the play scene is looking so much better than expected, but I want more randomness. So I created a signed question block that generates a random object, whether it's a wall or an enemy. There is an additional object called a block wall, which is like a brick wall but with a different design. After implementing all of this, I playtested for way too long. It was just too addicting to me, which is a mistake. Don't do that, guys. Another type of object that I want to make for this game: gadgets. The first gadget is a healing booster. This gadget heals the player. That's it. There's no effect happening yet though. I plan to make a separate function for the script in the next day. Just keep in mind that as long as it disappeared, it worked. I also made it so that the gadget could be generated by toggling the buttons or approaching the question blocks. Everything is going as I expected. However, it does not really show the variety of changes other than randomness. I thought of an idea of the level changing its design after toggling the buttons for a certain amount of time. I fired up paint.net and drew some glass sprites. By the way, this is my first time making pixel art. It's not bad, but it's not good either compared to other people's pixel art. Don't judge me, okay? After doing some troubleshooting to the lack of needed sprites, repetitive random changes, etc., I finally created 10 designs that could be changed correctly without in particular order. With the amount of content that I made for the first day, it was time for me to get a good sleep because it was 12 at midnight. That was such a wonderful start to the jam already. Today is the second day. I went outside and had breakfast, rode back home and started making more enemies. Since I thought the play scene was a bit too static because the enemies were not moving, the enemies that I was about to make wouldn't only rotate and aim at the player, they would also run towards the player. Not gonna lie, I had a pretty bad time making it. I had to tweak a lot of numbers and code, fix the bugs of the bullets not flying, and it finally worked. I then made 2 more moving enemies that move like the first moving enemy, and each moving enemy has a different color. There is just one major flaw. Sometimes the moving enemies run out of bounds, which means they go outside the wall. The bullets they shoot can't even touch the player because they are destroyed as soon as they touch the wall. However, there is a very simple solution that makes the game a tad bit easier for players to play. If they go out of bounds, they will be destroyed. I'm quite happy with the stuff I made during the first half of the day. After getting a siesta, an idea popped up in my head. I opened Paint.net again and drew 2 more sprites for 2 gadgets. One that helps the player with a big amount of health, and the bullet destroying gadget literally destroys all of the bullets that appear in the scene. Before writing code for any of the gadgets, I needed to change a lot of code so that managing the functions of the gadgets could be so much easier. After suffering with so much code written and edited, the bullet destroying gadget worked. The other 2 currently have no functions because I did not implement a health bar for the player. I wanted to give the player some feedback after toggling the buttons by making particle system for each weapon, wall and gadget. This hopefully makes the player know where the objects are spawned. And now I finally created a health bar for the player and some properties for gadgets on healing and damaging the player. The health bar is on top of the player. It's quite small but big enough for people to see. I also made color animations for the player if they get damaged by anything harmful. While the animation plays, all harmful things cannot damage the player at all, which is a classic element in every fighting game or roguelike game, whatever. If the player dies, in this case, they empty the health bar, everything in the scene is destroyed including the player and then the game restarts. Another thing I created is the background color change when the player's health gets very low, which shows the warning not to die, and it kind of elevates the tension to be careful. Then I created a mechanic that whenever a player holds the spacebar while moving, the character runs 2 times faster than the normal speed. But be careful, because doing that will drain the health constantly and eventually the character will die. There is no indicator for that yet, so it's quite hard for players to realize if they are holding the spacebar or not, but I will make it later. I also wrote some code for the camera to change the orthographic size so that the whole scene can fit in the camera view. The best aspect ratio you can play in this game is larger than 4:3. I made a particle system that can be instantiated after the bullets smash into the wall or after they got destroyed by the bullets destroying gadgets. One of the things that I did not even know existed, particle collision, which is so amazing. So I messed around with it and holy moly, it worked so well. Did not really expect that to be that mesmerizing. I made some more visuals by creating floating text indicating how much the player gets healed or gets damaged. By the way, bullets from different enemies have different values of damaging the character. Then I made a red flashing effect showing that the player gets damaged by anything harmful. I have been working on this base gameplay scene for so long. The fact that I think it is already perfect leads to myself making basic UI for this scene and the main menu. I might make some challenges where players can get some achievements after finishing some missions. So let me think about how I will host the challenges. I need to take some time, and I just want to make a good time lapse of myself making stuff using my mouse and keyboard. Before going to sleep, I wanted to make some more stuff because there would be so much stuff that I had to do the next day, and I didn't want to make it unmanageable. I made a pause canvas and some stuff for the menu screen. I'm gonna go to sleep now. I'm tired. Here we are. Welcome to the toughest day, day 3. I started making as many achievements as possible for challenge mode. I sorted all of the challenges in several categories. Some of the achievements are not in the game because they usually can be achieved by just staying in one spot for a specific duration, so I got rid of that a few hours later. Anyway, I made a script that analyzes the critical information for challenges. In order to make a challenge mode, I have to create some basic UI so that the player can choose the challenges. Oh boy, even though I had a lot of stuff in my brain, that took me so much time despite the fact that there were not that many errors. It's just too much code to keep track. It's quite tiring for me to make a challenge UI, like the most simple UI in just a short time. But I'm glad that everything is going according to my plans. So it's time for me to have some lunch. After finishing lunch, coding like a maniac again, and procrastinating by T-posing, I finally finished making challenge mode and more. There is now a high score indicator below the score counter. If you die with your new best, the high score indicator will tell you that you have a new record. Remember, your score will not be saved if you exit the game before dying. The challenge mode now has a completed indicator to show you what challenges you have already completed. The game will ask you if you want to do the challenge, but you cannot retry it directly using the pause menu. Since the score of free play mode is no longer important for the challenge mode, I simply just disable it. If you want to see the progress you made during the challenge, just hold the tab key on your keyboard and you will see full detail and requirements to complete the challenge. If you die at any point, you will fail the challenge. If you complete the challenge without dying by the way, then you made it. Congratulations. At the point I was recording the screen, I found the challenges I made too difficult, so I tweaked more numbers so that the challenges can be suitable for players. Anyway, I finished making a settings screen and a credit screen. Now, at first I thought of making sprites for each challenge, but I got a better idea. Every challenge description now converts into logos with clear requirements to beat. It is a really good way for players to not get overwhelmed by the number of words in the description. With most of the visuals finished, I did something that I did not expect to do at all: making music. I gotta admit here, I kind of made some tracks before, but they did not really have the melodies. I wanted to challenge myself if I can produce some melodies for my tracks. Even if it's bad, it's better than making nothing. So I downloaded Bosca Soil. Okay, Bosca Soil. Oh, that was hard to read. Messed with some cheap tunes and other retro instruments for quite a long time because it was my first time using the application, and here is the result. Honestly, it was so much better than I anticipated. There are some of my own sound effects that are recycled from my first game on my itch.io profile, Plasm. GMTK allows everybody to reuse every asset that they own. Being happy about it, I decided to get some sleep and get enough energy for the final touches. It's the final day of the jam. I don't know why, but I suddenly want to change some stuff for the menu screen because the logos were not appealing at all. I mean, just looking at the messy pixels makes me puke already. Okay, let me do some magic here. Much better. Now, the challenge mode is already good, but I felt like it was missing something. Oh yeah, it was a reason why players can't retry the challenge from the pause menu. Although the retry button was disabled, players can quit the challenge and go back to the challenge, which is like pressing the retry button but with 2 steps. Therefore, I created a coin system where the players can collect coins by toggling the tick button in the free play mode. The number of collected coins is the same as the number of times you toggle the buttons, but if you get a high score, that number will be doubled. as a bonus. Moreover, players are allowed to play the challenges for 20 coins each. With everything finished, I built a test build to test the game, and I found the first bug in the menu screen.
Oh, okay.
Which is the tutorial. I built the test build again. I played the final challenge, which is the hardest one, and even though I lost, I felt like the difficulty was just right and it was very suitable for the final boss of the challenges. After seeing barely anything wrong in the tested version, I made a page of this game on itch.io so that I could submit to GMTK Game Jam 2025. Oh, by the way, the game's name is Togloop. And with that, the game was officially one of 2,331 entries as of the moment I submitted the game. You know what? Since I have 8 more hours until the jam ends, I'm gonna make one last thing to the animation of the camera. It's the feedback of the player destroying all bullets at once by touching the gadget. So let's do it, and after that I'm gonna use my time to train my TOEIC reading skills. During that implementation process, I found a bad bug, which was the status of the player with low health not reverted back to normal. The bug fixing was complete, and I also made a camera shake animation after the player approaches the bullet destroying gadget, which is the feedback that I told you earlier. This small change makes a big impact on the gameplay. Because I finished fixing the bugs before the deadline, I could just replace the old file to a new file where hopefully no more bugs. I was so happy to see the finished game uploaded to the jam, and I could finally do many other things in my schedule for the rest of the day. One shocking thing about this jam is the number of submissions is so huge that the server has a lot of issues, which is why GMTK decided to extend the submission period. That is crazy. At the end of the day, the number of games submitted is just astonishing.
This might be the biggest number of entries in the Game Jam history. That is insane. Well, have fun rating all the games because it is 1 AM in my country now.
Because the jam ended, people are now allowed to play the games submitted to the jam and rate them. As of the moment I'm recording this right now, I don't really have much hope for the game's ranking, but there are so many things that I have improved after joining the jam. I knew what resources I already owned before. I wrote code a lot cleaner, more logical and more organized. I had good time management, especially with the short time span of 4 days. By the way, the point of joining this game jam is to not be a grand winner or whatever. My main purpose is to challenge myself and to break my limit. To anybody who wants to join the jams, if you submit your game to the jam before the deadline, you are already a winner. Before ending this video, if you want to play and rate the game that I submitted, go ahead and click on the link in the description. And now I want to show 2 games that fit my taste the most out of all games that I have rated so far. The first one is Speedloop. This is a platformer game where the character starts and finishes in the same starting position. Wait, this sounds so familiar, right? Anyway, every time you get to the finish line, you get to choose one of the 3 upgrades, which may benefit you but also may punish you because the time limit gets smaller and smaller for next levels. My best run is a time limit of 15 seconds. It's just impossible at this point. The second game is Goop Snake. The game is a super duper cute puzzle where your objective is to get the snake into a drain. Because the snake can gloop through itself, this fits the theme of the jam. You can eat some apples to increase the snake's length. You can also remove apples to reduce its length. Each level gets harder and harder, but after finishing a level, it is very satisfying to see it glooping into the drain with perfect sound design. Those were 2 outstanding games I have played in the jam so far. You can also play those games by clicking on the links in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoy it and have a great day or night. Peace out.